Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lou Reviews. I'll be turning on my camera here in a second. The live stream is up. It's working, even though behind the scenes, it has been an absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare. I was on today. They've got my issue going all the way up the restream chain. Apparently I'm not the only streamer out there that is having this issue. So yeah, hello Lord Ludacris, Dana Shadell, YouTube member, thank you so much for being here. Guys, if you want to know why Dana's name is green, it's because she's a YouTube member. Become a member today or join our Patreon. Or if you really want to avoid the man, I have a PayPal, but I don't have a link for it anywhere. But if that's something you're into, let me know. I can work things out for you. I can guarantee it. Silly Goose, what's shaking? Turn your output volume up on my microphone or on my music. Let's get into this. Let's do this. Hello, guys. What's shaking? My mic, huh? Okay. How about now? Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Does seem to be. Is this better? Okay, cool. I have turned it all the way up. Sounds good. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being my soundboard here. I really appreciate it. It's always great to dial in the show with the fans before we get started. We've got an interesting one today. Got a very, very interesting one. So, all right, thanks, B. Baker. Appreciate it. So, we've had an interesting day. Twitter has absolutely lost its shit. And we're going to dive into why. Primarily has to do with Garry Nolan. So there are a couple things, and of course, this is just speculation. I'm just kind of, looking at things try to step back and look at it from a bigger perspective. And it's interesting. The first thing I want to talk about today is what or where Garry Nolan spoke at today. Wait a second. What is going on here? Let me do this. Here we go. I'm going to get rid of this one. Sorry, guys. Just messing with some windows here. So Garry Nolan had this presentation in New York City on Wall Street at a convention called the SALT Conference. Yes, like the spice, like salt that you put on your food. So people ask, what is the SALT Conference on Google? And it comes back with SALT's annual flagship Wall Street conference in New York City that convenes the world's leading investors, entrepreneurs, and policymakers. SALT New York 2023 will focus on themes including alternative investments, fintech, digital assets, healthcare, infrastructure, ESG, and more. So that pitch meeting to investors that we kept hearing about, this was it. This was it. This was the pitch meeting. So basically, this is, and of course, I think this context is going to get really lost on the Twitterverse, because the context of this whole discussion is that it's a pitch. It's a pitch to investors. It's the elevator pitch. It's a short, I don't know how long they went for, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm thinking, at this big investment convention to see if people want to invest in alternative energies. And they gave them the big stories. They gave them the big promises. Oh, so close. Just read between the lines. And we're going to get into it. We're going to read between the lines. Yeah, this is going to do, I think, a lot of damage. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So let me do this. Switch this to this right here so I can pull up the SALT clip. And it's a 16-minute clip. This was shared by Danny Silva, really nice guy in the UFO community, researcher, blogger. Happen to disagree with him on some key things, but really nice guy. And wonderful taste in music. I cannot argue that. He writes, this is one of the greatest segments in the history on the subject. Let me just go ahead and click it so it doesn't move. Let's get into it. I'm going to totally kill the royalty-free music and play this from the beginning and pause it in certain spots. And also, I guess I'll just go ahead and put our fair use banner up so that way there's no, there we go. We're educating the public and critiquing the videos we are sharing. This is covered under fair use. So let's get into it. This is Dr. Garry Nolan. And it doesn't say, Alex Igolkas? Alex Igolkas. Capital, something cyber capital management. I think I could barely see what it says. You know what? Let me blow it up for a second, but it's going to look weird for you guys. Cyber capital moderator. So, okay, so he's the moderator. Alex Koikas, Kiokus. All right. So just wanted to make sure that we get that in there. All right. Let's see how they, just pay attention to how they set this up, what he says. In my opinion, these are really softball questions, and Well, we'll break it down as we go, I guess. We'll break it down as we go.
I'm curious, do you believe that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited planet Earth?
I think you can go a step further. It hasn't just visited, it's been here a long time, and it's still here. And it has basically, people talk about the wow signal, looking for extraterrestrial intelligence. The wow signal is that people see it on an almost regular basis. That's the communication that's already here.
And that statement seems so incredible that it's tough to believe, right? Like, people hear that, and maybe a lot of people hear that, and they don't believe it. And so I'm curious.
Also, before he gets on to the next part of this, that's a huge statement. They've been here before we were here. They're here now. And the wow signal is their interaction with us. And the reason he knows this is because Garry Nolan, according to him, has experienced one of these alien encounters. And so it's safe to say that he has a bias toward believing that whatever he experienced was 100% an alien encounter. It's just, that's a huge statement coming from a professor at Stanford University. But that's just one professor. And we'll play it out. Let's see what this follow-up is. Turn that off. All right, here we go.
If you had to assign a probability to that statement, that you believe extraterrestrial intelligence has visited this planet, what probability would you assign?
100%. And that's not just my opinion. I mean,
100%.
The National Defense Appropriation Act, passed last year, signed by Biden in December. 30 pages of that is the establishment of an unidentified aerial phenomenon office, the establishment of looking into the harm that's happened to any of a number of the individuals, going back to 1945 and looking at the disinformation and misinformation that has been basically articulated over the decades. 12 US senators have signed on to a document that basically says we want the information. The establishment of an office, ARROW, in the Department of Defense, has 25 people working in it right now. And what's their goal? Collecting the information across all of the U.S. Department of Defense intelligence offices, and collation of that into a uniform format for the very first time, and provision of that then to Congress. The creation of a whistleblowers program specifically that allows people from within, who, I'm going to say this, who've been working on the reverse engineering programs, reverse engineering of objects, so that they can come in and break their oaths, but it's specifically just to talk to Congress and give that information in classified settings. And that the most recent one that happened was just last weekend, and it created quite a hornet's nest in Washington.
So many things that he just said right there. The Arrow office, as it's constructed presently, does not look into the past. Did not look into 1945. Did not look into Roswell. They took testimony from military personnel and other people within the government. So if it went into the past, it was from those sources, I'd say. I don't think they're digging into the past. They've said it, that they're only looking at the information and the data that they can try and corroborate and figure out, and looking at the anomalous stuff and seeing, okay, what does it fit best? And if it doesn't fit anything, putting it into another category until other information or other data can rule it out as completely unknown. That doesn't make it alien. It's like parts of these, I think ATIP was looking into the last 40 years in Skinwalker Ranch and, mind projection and bending spoons and all that wild shit. That's what he's referencing when he talks about, like, he's not specifying, I think, at least for me, he's not specifying which department handled which part of what he said the government's handling. And it's slick. But also keep in mind, and the reason why I think this is important is that this is a sales pitch. He's trying to raise money to study UFOs. And you'll see by the end of this, not just study them, but find a way to monetize them. Like, this is what this investment presentation is for. I pitch my tech idea to all you billionaires, and the best idea gets funding. Sometimes bad ideas get funding, but this is the place you go to try and get funding for that. And so this is his, you'd have to have a really killer research team to parse everything that Garry Nolan just said in that statement, and multiple statements. Like, he's 100% confident. Hope he's right. I hope he's right. Let's see what else he's got to say.
And so let's just create kind of like a logical framework here. So we start at the top. We say now there is 100% probability that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited Earth. Now we have to go down to why that statement may be true, why you believe that statement is true. What is the evidence? And I think perhaps we all may have to read between the lines a little bit here. You may not maybe divulge everything, but in your opinion, what do you believe to be the...
What security clearance does Garry Nolan have? To have access to reverse engineering program information. Does he have a clearance that nobody knows about? If so, obviously they go, what is it? Like, how does he have this information as 100% fact? And you'll see, we have to read between the lines. To determine whether or not this is 100% fact or a pitch to get money to study kooky shit. I mean, I agree. If people want to pitch ideas to get money to fund the study of kooky shit, I'm good with that. Just leave the government out of it. Do it privately. And with this subject, I would think if you're doing it privately, you would be very transparent about it. And have a think tank of different belief systems, maybe different educations, different ways of thinking, and open source it, man. Like, it's so important to open source this stuff. Like, none of this stuff should be behind a paywall. And another just kind of like just weird coincidence is a couple of weeks leading up to this event, you have things like this. Have you seen a UFO? And when you scan this, you can enter your UFO experience into a database. Where does that data go? Who owns that data once you submit it? I have a feeling the user doesn't own that data anymore once they complete the process of filling this out. Enigma is, the front man for that is Alejandro Rojas, who's good friends with, Lou Elizondo and Garry Nolan and all those guys. And, I mean, you throw And this kind of advertising isn't cheap, man. Like, doing this in New York City on a garbage can? Like, yeah, dude, like, this is pretty wild. Pretty wild. I mean, like, I wonder who's funding this. I know that's been a big question. I'm not saying one has to do with the other, but it's just the timing of it is pretty wild. You know, like this New York SALT conference in New York City where they've been sort of, you know, laying down the groundwork for UFOs in Wall Street. I wonder where Sprague is when he took this picture. Shit, dude, if he's in Wall Street, that'd be very interesting. I mean, anywhere in New York is interesting, man. Like, if you work at Wall Street, you take the train and you go different places. But anyway, all right, let's see the rest of this.
Establishment. It's not just my opinion. I mean, look, the National Defense Appropriation Act, passed last year, signed by Biden in December. 30 pages.
Thank you, G West. I know we already heard this part, so thank you for the $5 donation. Nobody here is saying it's ET, UFO Twitter. Garry Nolan is breaking down the walls of disclosure, UFO Twitter.
Going back to 1945 and looking at the disinformation and misinformation that has been basically
he knows the
articulated
misinformation.
over the decades. 12 U.S. senators have signed on to a document that basically says we want the information. The establishment of an office, Arrow, in the Department of Defense, has 25 people working in it right now. And what's their goal? Collecting the information across all of the U.S. Department of Defense intelligence offices, and collation of that into a uniform format for the very first time, and provision of that then to Congress. The creation of a whistleblowers program specifically that allows people from within, I'm going to say this, who've been working on the reverse engineering programs, reverse engineering of objects, so that they can come in and break their oaths, but specifically just to talk to Congress and give that information in classified settings. And that the most recent one that happened was just last weekend, and it created quite a hornet's nest in Washington.
Quite a hornet's nest in Washington. Quite a hornet's nest in Washington. This was the hornet's nest in Washington. 3 senators showing up. And Dr. Kirkpatrick. And a couple of UFO folks in the back to witness this historic event that no other senator wanted any part of. And most of the questions were about national security. Yeah, it's kind of like, man, I want it to be real, man. But like, claims like that are bold. And here's the thing is he could say it at the SALT conference. It doesn't matter at the SALT conference if what he says isn't true. Let's see if the investors look into that stuff. They're gonna find Lou Elizondo. They're gonna find ATIP. They're gonna find senators that have signed documents. All of these things are true, but like when you really dig into them, when you really dig into these programs, they're all just like shell corporations, just like put together with fishing string and toilet paper. They barely stand up. And in some cases don't even stand up. Damn it! Why is it doing that?
Most
all right, so
visited Earth. Intelligence has visited Earth. Now we have to go down to why that statement may be true. Why you believe that statement is true. What is the evidence? And I think perhaps we all may have to read between the lines a little bit here. You may not maybe divulge everything, but in your opinion, what do you believe to be the most compelling evidence to support that statement?
Well, I think the most compelling evidence is you just need to look at what your government is doing right now about it. I mean, just go and look at the number of politicians, and this is interesting, on both sides of the aisle who have come together and signed off on this statement. I mean, I was involved last year with putting together some of the wording of the NDAA, which was passed into law. So, I mean, so what are they basing their opinions on? They're basing their opinions on the dozens of individuals who in one manner or another have come forward and talked to them in classified settings. So that's the first thing. Then my personal experiences with the individuals well, the one person who actually was involved with collecting a lot of that original information, and then my experience with people who, frankly, I know have worked or are working on the reverse engineering programs.
Okay, so let's take one step back. Reverse engineering programs.
Of downed craft. Now, the first question that people will ask is, well, if they're so frigging advanced, why are they crashing? Because what's crashing is not actual living things. I mean, if you...
Why aren't they crashing anymore?
If you wanted to study a tribe of cannibals in the middle of the Amazon, are you going to go yourself and show up in the middle of the tribe and not hopefully become dinner on the other side of it? So if you're an advanced intelligence, I don't think we're all that advanced, frankly. You're not going to be...
And just real quick on that whole cannibal analogy, yes, that's what people who have approached cannibals have done. They've done it with either one person. I know one person actually did it and came back fine. I think went back a few times. Eventually, they did kill him and eat him, I believe. But, yeah, eventually, if you're going to approach a civilization like that, you figure you do it with one person. So it's as unthreatening as possible. If you showed up with 40, 50, 60, 100 people, they'll think it's an invasion. I don't know. It's a weird analogy. Cannibals.
Basically put your life and limb at risk by coming here. So mostly what you're seeing here are either drones or some sort of advanced AI or whatever it is. I mean, look, we're already dealing with an alien intelligence in our own emails, right? Our own Chat GPT, et cetera. We don't even know what it's doing. So imagine if you were a million years ahead of us.
This is actually cool. I love this idea. This idea of that is an intelligence that is brewing on its own. I mean, that to me is a very wild idea. And how many layers to that 7-layer dip are there? I have a feeling it's more than 7. I have a feeling that can go. I mean, there was just a trailer that was just released called I don't know. But it's about this, like an AI that's so human-like that it's supposed to usher in the end of humanity. But I think really it's going to usher in humans themselves. Anyway, whatever. I always get sidetracked. But I don't know why this is.
If you were a million years ahead,
but I love this idea.
How do you have a dialogue with something like that? Or what is it that could possibly do?
Yeah. And I'm glad that we've got some people here to witness these statements. I think they're very consequential. And so we start with now 100% probability of extraterrestrial intelligence. We go to evidence. We now talk about down craft.
That was the evidence. UFOs are real. Here's the evidence. The evidence was, I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. Trust me, bro. It's real. That's the evidence. Trust me, bro, it's real. Read between the lines, bro. It's real. There was no evidence presented in anything that Garry Nolan just said. As sexy as it sounded, as right as I hope as he is. That was not evidence. Period. Full stop. So, going back to the previous one, I believe it just automatically takes that one out.
Glad that we've got some people here to witness these statements. I think they're
very
consequential.
These statements.
And so we start with now 100% probability of extraterrestrial intelligence. We go to evidence. We now talk about down craft.
100% probability of extraterrestrial intelligence. Yeah, but where? Here? Evidence? We didn't get that. Now we're going to downcraft.
We see the government moving in a certain direction. Presumably the downcraft is made of some material. Presumably we could test that material. I know you've done a little bit of work firsthand. You have seen some material. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Right. Well, so what is it that you hope to discover out of a material? So let's just go back, just briefly, and why would you want to do it in the first place?
You've seen material, right? Let me go and give you this long-winded answer.
So basically, a grain of silicon, back in the 50s or 60s, changed our entire culture and world, right? Something as small as that, the discovery of what you could accomplish with a little piece of germanium doped with the right elements, changed our understanding. Now, so we have multiple simultaneous sensor systems that have seen these objects go from 50 feet above the water to up to 14 miles and then back in less than a second. All right?
Sensor systems.
Just a truth.
Not you.
The U.S. government has confirmed that these kinds of measurements have done. Now, they're very careful what they say. They say, well, we have no evidence of ET. Well, because, no ET is going to come walking in here and say hello, right? But if you read between the lines on the flip side of it, it does stuff that we can't do. We know that the Russians and the Chinese are not doing.
Got it.
And so if you can go from
0 to 5,000 miles
an hour and take a right turn and not end up squished like a bug on the windscreen on the other side, if they have windscreens.
I thought they didn't come. I thought they weren't any occupants in
So what
the
it
craft.
tells you is that we need to
rethink
our physics, first of all, to say that, well, we saw birds fly, so it took us 3,000 years and we figured out how to fly. But now we see these things doing this. So what is it that lets us do? So I know some of the physicists on the inside who work at some of these big defense corporations who basically said,
have NDAs.
Here's how you tweak even general first von Neumann probes to go out there. That's where the hypothesis starts. So, people have come up with all kinds of ideas, but I haven't. And start with kind of a mantra I've had for the last 100%.
Sorry, guys.
100% again.
It's there. It's there. Revolutions ahead of us. Even a tiny piece of knowledge from that could revolutionize. Even general relativity to accomplish.
Sorry, guys.
1,000 miles an hour and take a right turn and not end up squished like a bug on the windscreen on the other side if they have windscreens. Then what is the physics that accomplishes that? So what that tells you is that we need to rethink our physics, first of all, to say that, well, we saw birds fly, so it took us 3,000 years and we figured out how to fly. But now we see these things doing this. So what is it that lets us do? So I know some of the physicists on the inside who work at some of these big defense corporations who basically go, well, here's how you tweak even general relativity to accomplish that. But then you say, well,
here's how you tweak general relativity. Just tweak it. Oh, I'm a defense contractor. Yeah. Oh, my NDA. You're Garry Nolan. You work at Stanford, right? Dude, I trust you, bro. I trust you too, bro. All right, give me the info. And boom, here we are at the SALT conference.
Well, how much energy is needed to do it? Well, more than the whole nuclear output of the planet per day, per movement. So you start to backtrack and you say, okay, well, who could do that? Well, we can't. Will we be able to do it in 1,000?
We kind of can. We kind of can. Again, I keep pointing to our nuclear aircraft carriers, our nuclear submarines, and from what we can tell, nuclear drones. So these things don't have to refuel, some of them for hundreds of years. So we kind of have harnessed the power of at least a miniature sun. That's kind of what the atomic bomb was, right? So this idea that's going to take another 1,000 years to do something like this, it's not, like, come on, man, that's not true. Right? Am I crazy, chat? Chat, am I crazy? Oh, Local 556, who's a new member, by the way. Thanks, my friend. I don't think you were here the last show, so just wanted to shout you out during a live one. Thank you for being here. I mean, Am I cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? Have we not harnessed this kind of power? Have we perfected it? No. Thousands of years away from that? Absolutely. But I feel like we at least started it. We've started the process. I'm a little crazy. All right. Thanks, SL. That's a loaded question, I suppose. All right. Let's see what Dr. Garry Nolan has to say. What else he's got to say.
1,000 years. But if we had a piece of any of this, let's say it's 1,000 revolutions
If we
ahead
had
of
a
us,
piece of this, I thought
or
we
a
did.
million revolutions ahead of us. Even
talk to the
a
guys
piece of knowledge
working on
from
it.
that could revolutionize what it is that we're doing. I'm always looking for the opportunity. I look at the upside of this. I'm not worried about them coming and, raiding us or taking our women and children.
Hey, I'm looking for the opportunity. I'm looking for the opportunity.
Do you believe
That's
that extraterrestrial intelligence?
what Garry Nolan's doing. Hey, investors, I see the opportunity here to really invest in some cool propulsion systems. Trust me, bro, I've seen them. And maybe, look, man, would not shock me if we have figured something out. Look, we do have drones that move like that. First and foremost, we do have drones that do that. And they do them at high speeds. And he said they were drones at first and then changed it to occupants in the vehicle being smashed against the windshield. So we do have drones that do that. There are race drones that people put goggles on that do that. This is frustrating. It's frustrating. Because this is like, he's way more credible than me, right? He's a PhD at Stanford University, right? Like, how dare you question him? How dare you question him? And that's like the trap that you get into with these
I'm curious. Do you
high-level university guys. It's like, oh, okay, because you're a high-level university guy, no one's allowed to question you. No one's allowed to question your belief system. No one's allowed to question your motives. Like, to me, this is such a, I don't know, it feels slimy. It feels like a slimy pitch. Like, hey, billionaire, trust me, bro, I've seen the goods, and I think with your money, I can maybe crack parts of it, even if I got a tiny little piece of it, just a little piece that I almost got one time. And he talks about that. It's so funny, man. Oh, come on. Here, let's do this.
Do you
or a million revolutions ahead of us. Even a tiny piece of knowledge from that could revolutionize what it is that we're doing. I'm always looking for the opportunity. I look at the upside of this.
The opportunity, just like you
them
guys.
coming
And this is what this is.
raiding us or taking
He's
our
got
women and
no
children.
worry
That's not my
of a
concern.
superior
My concern
intelligence
is how do
coming
we
to
use
destroy
it?
us.
Yeah.
He knows this is real, but he's got
And I'm curious,
zero
do you have
worry of
confidence
that. Why?
Us collectively will have material, literal physical material to evaluate, to analyze.
Yes, 100%.
100% again. Okay.
It's there. It's there.
He had ball
I
shavings.
can say this. I was working
Ask
with
him
a
about the
group
ball shavings.
about 7-8 years ago, and I literally got within a few weeks of gaining access to one of the objects. And when the people who didn't want us to gain access to it found out about it, they pulled some bureaucratic administrative tricks and snatched it away.
It's wild. And so now we have you.
Was his name Garry Reed? Was his name Garry Reed? Ooh, spooky story. Ooh, read between the lines. Some bureaucratic hoobity dude told us we're not allowed to look at it. I was so close, investors. I was so close. Dude, give me a break.
You, Dr. Nolan, making.
Why would he know
statement.
this stuff?
You are well positioned to make this statement Now maybe we get into like some fun. Let's like feel comfortable hypothesizing.
Oh,
a little
now
bit
we can
as to
hypothesize.
what is happening.
Everything else that just happened
Like
was a fact. Now we can really let loose. Woo! Man. If this is what they do with UFOs, I can't imagine what they're doing with next-gen technology. You know? I mean, like, this presentation is so bloated with mixed facts. It's like a shaken drink poured beautifully as a nice, cool cocktail. You know, this guy with a unbuttoned shirt, you know, let me imagine a buttoned shirt and Garry Nolan looking at the crowd, smiling, right? Like, you know, like it's a show. It's a pitch.
What is it, right? Like, and nobody's going to hold you to this, right? Now maybe we go down from
Who's going to hold you to this? But
probability
the
to
100%
now we're
stuff.
speculating,
Right.
okay?
We'll hold into
Now
that.
let's speculate together. What do you think it is?
Right. So to do that, I'll start with kind of a mantra I've had for the last while. So, you know, individual experiences of what people see is an anecdote, but an anecdote doesn't convince a scientist. What is it that convinces a scientist? Data, right? What doesn't convince scientists? A conclusion. So really the objective here, and what has allowed me to actually talk to some of my scientist colleagues who first said, Garry, you're going to ruin your career. Well, okay, whatever, it's too late for that. But I haven't.
Why is it too late?
Because I basically say, look, if you and I can agree that the data is real, irrespective of what the potential conclusions might be, the hypotheses, then the onus is no longer on me to come up with an answer. Now it's also on you, because we're having a discussion about this. So it's believe the data, not the conclusion. Yeah. So you see the data, and that's where the fun is. That's where the hypothesis starts. So, you know, people have come up with all kinds of ideas, everything from future humans, future AI coming back to us because somehow they figured out time travel, to what's called the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis that they are part of. I'm sure some people here at least
look how much
back to us because somehow they figured out time travel.
Somehow they figured out he doesn't believe any of this. I don't think. He doesn't believe anything he's saying. Like, he's dismissing time travelers. He's throwing away the idea, really, of extraterrestrials in a way. So, in a way, I'm wondering if he even had an experience. Because to me, his telling of that story rings true. It's a story I've heard before. I saw the cover of Whitley Strieber's book, and all these memories came back to me. It's just, it doesn't ring true, man.
To what's called the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis that they are part of. I'm sure some people here at least know what a von Neumann probe is, right? This idea of a self-replicating machine that could have been developed by a technology or a civilization on the other side of the galaxy that even in just a few 100 million years could make its way by conventional means all the way across the galaxy. And when it gets there, it basically builds copies of itself and it does what it's doing, and it basically some other civilization sent it out. Now, Avi Loeb was here last year, so I'm part of an SAB with Avi Loeb on a
Special Access Program
Corporation. And guess what?
So Avi Loeb, who said that he wasn't going to work with the government, is working with the government. That's what Garry Nolan just confirmed here for us. He told us that he was not going to be beholden to the government. And here he is, part of a special access program, according to Garry Nolan, which I'm sure has NDAs through the nose and special access. So that immediately puts Galileo Project as compromised. It's a compromised source of information. he said he was going to be independent with the Galileo project, that they were raising public funds to fund this idea. Now he's in a special access program with Garry Nolan? Am I crazy now? Guess he couldn't resist that government money or access, or what happened to the funds you raised? Do they mix in with the government contract, the special access program? The people who paid, I think he said they were up to, it was a couple million, wasn't it? Somebody please in the chat. How many million did Avi Loeb raise? Do any of those investors get knowledge like Garry Nolan and now Avi Loeb in the special access program? Did they get access to it? Like, the government has a paywall? Yeah, that's shocking, I guess. What's happening here? Is this the government's way of saying, we figured out a physics-defying technology and we need to give pieces of it to investors to change the economy? Is that what this is? And so that way they can leak crazy shit to billionaires who then can, I mean, look, I have no idea, right? This is just speculation, especially this. Total conspiracy theory. But it's like, what is this? What is going on here? A Harvard professor is in a special access program. It's absolutely wild. $1 million, says Local 556. I think you're right. That sounds about right. I thought it was 2 million or almost 2 when he was, for some reason, 2 and 4 stick in my brain. But even if it's $100,000, even if it's $10, like, does that person get any sort of inkling on that investment that they made for this camera system to look at the sky? Is the government telling them where to look and how to present this physics-defying craft that nobody knows where it came from? Ooh, spooky. And really it's ours? Or some defense contractors? What's going on here? And if so, how could I invest in on this? I want fun technology, Garry Nolan. I don't need the special access. Just, can I get in for like $100? Is it like Bitcoin? Where if I buy $100 now, in 7 years, it'll be really nice. I help a brother out. Damn, man.
What? Our objective is to build the first von Neumann probes to go out and spread humanity's original presence across all of reality. So that's one of the others.
Yeah.
A third one is...
Well, what do you, Garry, Dr. Nolan, you have to speculate. What do you think it is? Let's be bold.
No, he knows.
It is an advanced form of intelligence, something that we don't understand, that is using some kind of intermediaries, however it is, like I said about the, you're not going to end up in the middle of the tribe, the angry monkeys that are flinging muck at each other, or nuclear bombs. You're not going to show yourself in the middle of the angry. You're going to send intermediaries. It's not that they walk amongst us, that wearing a skin suit are actually the alien, right? No, you're going to basically put something there that is, I think of it as an intelligence test. Can you see what's in front of you for what it really is? Yeah. Can you see the anomalous data point that is there that you realize what it is. I mean, when the South American native tribes first saw the Spanish ships coming across the horizon, they didn't realize what it was. They couldn't see it for what it was. So, you know, this is, as I said before, this is the kind of the wow factor. That they're showing up, they're saying, well, who amongst you are intelligent enough to realize what it is that you're looking at?
Yeah.
They don't have to land on the White House lawn. We can always make the joke about, is there intelligence in DC at all, right? You just need to show yourself to enough to acculturate.
Yeah.
Now, if you've been around for a long time, and this is something that I do think has been, they've been around for a long time, they are affecting our culture, right? It's actually often thought that many of the religions that we think of as the most important have been part of this process.
I mean, there are so many tangents to go down. We have about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Wow, we covered a lot, though. You know.
Just gonna wrap that statement up in 1 minute and 45 seconds. That's the other thing, man, is like it's presented as like this really easy cookie cutter investment. Hey, man, just get into it, man. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Want to say what's up to Really Happy Dude over here on the Twitch end of things. Thanks for being here, and you guys can see the if you want to see your chat pop up on the screen, go over to Twitch and subscribe there. There's a lot of fun stuff over on Twitch that you guys don't know about. Go check it out.
You know, I think what you just said feels like it has strong parallels to religion, to what's happening with AI right now, to the simulation hypothesis. Like, they all are kind of saying something very, very similar here.
Right.
And I guess I'm curious, right, as we wrap this up, what happens next?
Well, what happens next is, I mean, what you're actually seeing is what's happening next is the professionalization of this, right? It's not just me. I mean, I have many now scientists with whom I'm working, right? There's Ryan.
The professionalization of this. What the hell does that mean? You're the professional? You're a professor. Yeah, only professionals. Only professionals are allowed to talk about this and look at the secret access program stuff.
Ryan Graves, who was one of the pilots that saw the...
Ryan Graves, who also has a company that's selling equipment that can find anomalous things in the sky to the government and is trying to get government contracts by doing so. Another government former pilot guy who has a UFO podcast and is selling a company that solicits the government to figure out weird things flying in the sky, as if the government needs his help. Weirdly enough, I don't think that contract has been picked up. I don't know. Can anyone correct me in the chat?
So the objects in those videos.
If I'm wrong on that.
He's got the American Institute of Aeronautics and Engineers, 50,000 strong organization. He's got a group within them, as well as a 501c3 for civil aviation.
Yeah.
You know, we've used, and I'm just going to be honest, we've used the threat narrative that these things are showing up repeatedly. I mean, this is today. They're showing up repeatedly around our ships. So I think the objective has been to make it okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because we made it okay to talk about it, we opened the apertures on the filters on the sensor system.
You're not okay to talk about it. That's the problem. That's the biggest issue with Garry Nolan, is he's the least willing to talk about it, especially the stuff that doesn't make sense. And the fact that there's no proof. And when you're asked if you've seen these special materials, you didn't answer the question. You gave us some long-winded thing.
Systems, that's what partly led to the seeing of those Chinese balloons. You wouldn't have seen them if it weren't for that.
Yeah.
Right? Because we created laws that said it's time to open the apertures, because they were only looking at particular flight paths of things that look like a missile or a plane. So,
and that's what this is about. right there. That's the most honest part of this entire conversation. This moment right here.
The seeing of those Chinese balloons. You wouldn't have seen them if it weren't. Then wouldn't have seen them if temperatures on the. So I think the objective has been to make it okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because we.
The objective has been to make it okay to talk about it because.
Made it okay to talk about it. We opened the apertures on the filters on the sensor systems. That's what partly led to the seeing of those Chinese balloons.
Which is, I think, true. 100%. That, I think, is true. He's right on that. And if that's what this whole presentation is about, to get that idea out there, to let people know, especially in the military, that it's okay to talk about it. And the number one reason why they want military members to believe and think that is because our enemy has made these things that float in this aperture that they weren't looking at to look weird on purpose. Therefore, nobody would report it because nobody wants to be looked at as crazy. And that was a real stigma our enemies were taking an advantage of. So from that perspective, I 100% agree with Dr. Garry Nolan. Everything outside of that, I don't know what's going on. I have no clue.
You wouldn't have seen them if it weren't for that.
Yeah.
Right? Because we created laws that said it's time to open the apertures because they were only looking.
Because we created the laws, we made you safe. We made you safe. And I can't really argue that because I have a feeling this is going to be a big talking. When something bad happens from one of these balloon systems or one of these drone systems, these are the things that the government's going to point to say, we warned you. We told you it was coming. Yeah, there was other things connected to it. Our bad. We just didn't know what they were. We're just using military talk. Like, now the UAP term has been changed officially from unidentified aerial phenomena to unidentified anomalous phenomena. Again, they changed it. So they've got all their bases covered. So when something horrific happens, they've got all of these podcasts, all of these presentations, all of these papers, all of these professionals reporting on this, and they also came to the same conclusions we did. We didn't know. Turns out it was our enemies finding a weakness and taking advantage of it because you guys put the stigma on the military personnel first. Am I crazy? I mean, I think that's the most honest part of this entire discussion. Genuinely. And I think maybe really that's what this is. It's a cover your ass campaign more than a we don't know what it is campaign, because I do think they know what it is. And I don't think it's just one thing. I think it's these balloons, these drone systems, and I think it's US tech. They always leave that out of this. It's not Chinese, it's not Russian. Can't be anyone else. You know, like as they're trying to cover a brand new plane with just their body, you know?
Looking at particular flight paths of things that look like a missile or a plane. So that's the next part. I'm frankly involved with the development of a 501c3 myself, and our objective is to actually write policy.
Let's look that up, internet. The Saul Foundation. Go for it. Who's part of the Saul Foundation? Is it SAUL Foundation? Or did he say SALT Foundation? He might have said SALT Foundation. I'd be interested to see who is part of the SALT Foundation. If that's the one he's talking about. Let's see if we can listen to that again. I'll shut up.
So that's the next part. I'm frankly involved with the development of a 501c3 myself. We're calling it the Sol Foundation, and our objective is to actually write policy papers for governments, and commercial enterprises to basically give them the opportunity to think about it. It's not that it's going to happen tomorrow. It's a slow release process, we think, but to basically...
Oh, really? Really? It's a slow release process. But you got J. Christopher King saying it's going to happen in 365 days. It's coming at the end of this summer. What happened to the September, Garry Nolan? What happened to 6 months, Garry Nolan? What happened to that? What happened to 6 months? Now it's a slow release. They change shit up all the time. All the time. It's maddening. And if you don't see it by now, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you.
And then to develop, what I'm doing actually is developing novel kinds of materials analysis pipelines for basically
sounds like
analyzing
Skyfort.
material which is in the public sphere or the semi-public sphere, but then also, frankly, as a goad and a lure to bring in those who do have the stuff behind the scenes so that they can say, oh, okay, because I want to see it published.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it behind the scenes anymore.
Yeah.
And finally, what you're seeing is that a lot of people who are within the intel communities as well are frustrated, and they want to bring it out because they haven't been able to figure it out because the best minds aren't working on it.
Yeah.
The crazy scientists at Harvard, MIT, Yale, or wherever.
I thought they were working on reverse engineer programs that you know about. Somebody's working on it, Garry Nolan. Even in the same speech, he's contradicting himself. Which one is it? We have reverse engineer programs with the best minds working on it, or the best minds aren't working on it?
Are basically not allowed in because maybe they do a little bit too much of this or other things, and they couldn't get a security clearance if they wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree. I think that we need to destigmatize this narrative. We need to share this narrative more broadly.
I wonder if that, listen to this again. Listen to this again. And I don't...
bring it out because they haven't been able to figure it out because the best minds aren't working on it.
Yeah.
The crazy scientists at Harvard, MIT, Yale, or wherever are basically
But he's
not
working on it.
allowed in because maybe they do a little bit too much of this or other things, and they couldn't get a security...
I wonder if he's talking about Eric Weinstein. Does anybody know if Eric Weinstein has smoked marijuana? He looks like a smoker of marijuana to me. And I wonder if that's a shot across the bow because Eric Weinstein on Joe Rogan had mentioned that he was promised all these meetings and all these people and all this stuff. And it never happened. It fell flat on its face. I have a feeling Dr. Garry Nolan was part of that pitch. But you have to get into this special access program, Eric. And he's like, no way. And that was the excuse of, well, maybe he just smoked a little too much of this, and that's why he didn't get in. And now he's upset about it. That was a shot at somebody. I don't know who, but if I had to take a guess, I'd say Weinstein. Because he's the only other scientist really talking about this. Weinstein's more of a mathematician than he is scientist. But he's, whatever you think about him, he's a mind that I would like to hear about it more from him. Because he doesn't like to talk about this a lot because to him it's mostly nonsense. And especially after dealing with the people behind the scenes, whoever they are. God, I hope that comes out one day. I hope Eric Weinstein tells everybody who that was. But, I mean, who's he talking about here, man? Like, he's talking about people. Listen to the schools he names. I have a feeling Eric Weinstein went to at least one of them.
Semi-public sphere, but then also, frankly, as a goad and a lure to bring in those who do have the stuff behind the scenes so that they can say, oh, okay, because I want to see it published.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it behind the scenes anymore.
Yeah.
And finally, what you're seeing is that a lot of people who are within the intel communities as well are frustrated, and they want to bring it out because they haven't been able to figure it out because the best minds aren't working on it.
Yeah.
The crazy scientists at Harvard, MIT, Yale, or wherever are basically
MIT, Harvard,
not allowed
Yale.
in because maybe they do a little bit too much of this or other things, and they couldn't get a security clearance if they wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree.
And they
I
couldn't
think
get
that
a security clearance if they wanted to. Who is he talking about? Like, who are you talking about, Nolan?
we need to destigmatize this narrative. We need to share this narrative more broadly. The time gods gave us 2 minutes, Dr. Nolan. It looks like we were doing pretty well. People seem to like it.
An extra 2
We're very
minutes.
lucky
Cool.
there.
Explain.
I'm
Aliens are
curious,
real 100%. Go.
How can we accelerate this, right? Like, we want to get the brightest minds on this. I think maybe you and I share this. Like,
Give us
let's
money.
Go. Let's do
Let's
it.
go, investors.
Bring together, I mean, this is the part of this professionalization.
Yeah.
You need to bring together the right set of, basically, frankly, anthropologists and sociologists. How do we talk
Anthropologists,
about
people with money,
the fact that we're not at the
sociologists.
top of the intellectual food chain, first of all. How
Let's
do you
talk
deal
about it
with the-
first.
with
I'll
the
tell you all
religions?
the
Every
I
one of
told you
these
so's and
religions
trust
is
me,
gonna basically
bros.
Look to whatever that is and say, okay, well, what do they believe? Right? We know that the Vatican is involved. I mean, and I'm working with people who are working with the Vatican to basically get them. They've already said, this is very arrogant, they've already said, well, of course they can be Christians. Of course they can have a Jesus. They can be saved. They have a soul. I mean, I think the opportunity is for us to worry about whether they think we're worthy of saving.
Well, Dr. Nolan, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. I appreciate all of you coming on this journey with us. I hope you learned something new. I hope you're willing to question your beliefs just a little bit more, and maybe together we can understand reality.
Yeah. There's something here.
There is. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was, I would kill to be at this conference venue doing exit interviews with people who just listened to that presentation and see what investors think about this pitch. Because he's not there to just tell a story. He's there to raise money. He looked at the crowd and said, philanthropists, you people, we need money. How do we fast track this? Money. Money. Shut up and pay me. I'm not just making up that this is a pitch. This is a full-blown pitch for money. And I'm curious to know if they will be transparent with where that money goes. Has Galileo Project been transparent with where that money goes? Has To the Stars Academy been transparent to where that money went? There's a nasty pattern, guys. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff. I mean, yeah. Give us money, bro. Trust me, read between the lines and give us money. There was no facts in that entire presentation other than the part that I happen to agree with, it's a national security issue. That's the fact of this whole thing. That for sure is one fact. It is a national security issue. Past that, it's really difficult to sell because apparently Garry Nolan has never done a drug in his life. He's super clean enough to get into a special access program with Harvard professor Avi Loeb. And we also know Lou Elizondo is part of that crew. Minty Hyperspace Crew Dog is part of that crew. There's a whole bunch of like-minded folks that have infiltrated that crew. And that, especially the Galileo Project, made a promise that they were not going to be entering any special access programs because they knew with that came NDAs, and they weren't interested in NDAs. They were interested in finding the information on their own. Now they're in a special access program with Garry Nolan. I mean, that is, I think, really huge. Really, it says a lot. And it confirms what Eric Weinstein says. You have to sign an NDA to get into this special access program to get all the spooky information. And Eric's like, no, fuck that. Open source it. Open source it. And I agree with Eric Weinstein. We should open source it. It shouldn't be held behind an NDAA and a special access program that only a few people get to work on and talk about. That's the wrong way to do it. And it's also a little elitist. It wouldn't shock me if we get a physics-defying craft of some kind or sighting or video, and the internet's going to go freaking wild for it. And people like Garry Nolan and Avi Loeb and Lou Elizondo and Minty Hyperspoose, all of them will come out and say, I told you so. They're going to do their victory lap, their touchdown dance, and everybody's going to think there's aliens. Everybody's going to go wild. And it's really just ours. It's ours. And we're figuring out ways to monetize that technology. It seems like I'm part of this, according to this presentation. This is an opportunity to monetize these new technologies and these things that I almost had. Just read between the lines, bro. I've touched it. You know, like, I don't know what's going on here, man, because I can't prove any of this stuff. You know, it's all just speculation and just little things I catch. But like him saying somebody smoking pot wouldn't be able to get into this special access program, I dare anyone that is sent to work on this topic, half of them smoke pot. And that's just the start. You know, like that's just forget about alcohol and all the other really, really bad drugs. Like, that's such a bullshit thing. You're not allowed to talk about this technology. Look, the things people are seeing are real. They're real. Like, check this out. Boom. And they get to see the video. The thing doing the L. The 5 observables that everybody keeps talking about. We're going to get one of those videos, I think. But it's going to be our tech. That's going to be my opinion. And there's going to be a lot of inference that whatever we see is going to be alien. Like, I don't know. It's just a guess. Like, it's just a guess. But I know at its core it's a national security issue. And then past that, I just don't understand how Garry Nolan, who, as far as I know, has never been through the military, is just a professor at Stanford. How did he get access to people who would tell him about reverse engineering programs at either a private level or a government level? In both those instances, one, he would be arrested, and the other, he would be sued. If that was true. Damn, man. I don't know if it's a grift, Local 556. I feel like this is beyond grift. Like, it's just absolutely beyond grift. And there's something else is happening with this. And I'm not really sure what. It's just super confusing. And in one presentation, he said 4 different things. But the things that I got clear: national security issue, trust me, bro, read between the lines and give us some fucking money. Those are the 4 things I caught from that presentation. Why is someone who's in a special access program soliciting private dollars? Again, like, do they get, is it a paywall? to get behind, you know, you either have to be really smart and willing to sign an NDAA to get into the secret access program, or you have to be a billionaire. Like if I gave Garry Nolan $1 billion, if I had the means, would I get any factual proof for my $1 billion? What are we going to develop with that $1 billion? Am I getting more trust me bros and read between the lines for $1 billion? Because I better get a lot more than that. Hypothetically, if I had $1 billion. I don't know. What do you guys think? So I'm trying to look for a comment that somebody said, and I agreed with it. I thought it was a good one. So apologies if I don't find it right away. Hold on a second. A lot of you guys seem to agree. Like, Garry isn't interested in testing the ball shavings anymore. And I quote him when I asked about his promised test results. I'm not your daddy. That's what he said when he promised test results for the ball shavings from the guy who takes LSD and played in a band. Drank his entire life away. God, man, that was a really good... I just can't remember what it said. So, apologies. JJ says, Nolan admitted he works with the CIA. He is openly in bed with one of the most evil and corrupt groups of all time. I mean, I've heard that he is a CIA informant. And again, like, even, let's just say he is. Let's say that's 100% fact. Why is the CIA sending a UFO believer and professor into an investment opportunity? Is the CIA out of money? What's going on? I don't want to say that acronym too much on my show. I don't want this to get weird, man. It's just, man, dude, I don't know what's going on. It's really wild. It really, really is. I think it was after the You're a Little Crazy. Oh yeah, I'm definitely curious to know, man, how many investors actually, because there was not a lot of claps. I mean, like, listen to the end of this presentation. It sounds like there's a couple ringers in the crowd to get the crowd fucking hyped. Listen, watch.
I hope you learned something new. I hope you're willing to question your beliefs just a little bit more, and maybe together we can understand reality.
Yeah. There's something here.
There is. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I think they were expecting him, or like, fuck yeah, woo, alien technology, give me, yo, Nolan, a billion, I'll give you $1 billion. They were expecting like people just jump up and like as soon as this guy gets up, he's got a gavel in his hand. And he's like, all right, secret alien technology, started at $1 billion, $1 million here, and the gentleman with the red tie, and $2 million, $5 million from the gentleman with the cowboy hat. Thank you so much, everybody. Sold for $1 billion to Bob Bigelow, Robert Bigelow. Sold. Dude, what's going on, man? It's absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Paragon reasons. I offered to pay to test and ship the metal ball. No takers. That tells you it's BS. They did it again. They did it to gain support for weaponizing space and obscuring conventions, experimental aircraft. $1 trillion industries. I mean, you know, I guess they got to leak the new wave of tech, right? I don't know. When you say stuff like that, sounds crazy, you know? And I think that's the idea, right? Just to muddy the waters as much as possible. Like, all of these things could be true. A few of them definitely are. Like, you know, again, like, the things we know. National security issue. Read between the lines. Trust me, bro. And give me money. Anon ET says, these are all fair questions and concerns. I mean, guys, we got to look up some of this stuff. You know, like, why is Galileo Project in a special access program? I think that's the most disappointing part of all of this today. Is that fact right there. If it's a fact. I don't know. Can we even find out? What special access program is it that these guys have access to? I'm dying to know. Like, he keeps talking about it and referencing it, but how is he even allowed to talk about it if it's a special access program? Like, am I crazy, or is he breaking all of the rules of top secret information? I can't keep a secret. I can't. Especially if it was something like this. Like, why would he be allowed to talk about this so openly? Yeah, if Simon Fly says if it was, he wouldn't know about it. Surely. The CIA and intel agents have done it 100 times worse or even crazier. They have, you know, and that's why I think, like, manipulating the UFO community is, if there is a punishment, it's going to be, I have a feeling, a slap on the wrist. But I think a bigger punishment would be if something bad happens with the drone system or balloon system, and you didn't tell the American people in some way to look out for this or that this is coming. And they have done that. Like, I think they've bought themselves enough time to cover their ass. I think that's part of it, okay? So, trust me, bro. Read between the lines. Give me money. And now that. It's wild, dude. Absolutely wild. Local 556, these guys are all UFO believers. It's really not that deep. I agree. Like, yeah, I agree with that too. And I think that's what Stephen Greenstreet's theory is essentially, is that this just feels like a bunch of UFO believers in parts of the government that got together at the right time and just found each other, like in the cafeteria. Excuse me. They found each other in the cafeteria, like at a high school lunch. Like, who you figure out, where do I go to the lawn? Do I go to the court? The theater section? Do I go off campus for lunch? Do I eat in the cafeteria? And I feel like they all just met at the chemistry club or something. I have no clue. I have no clue how these guys all got together at the same time, and they just created this perfect storm of confusion and belief within the government and got it funded, and now are soliciting private investors. Like, I think this lie has gotten so big that they're going to sell movies, they're going to sell books, you know, they're going to copyright terms and acronyms like UAP. You know, now that you changed the meaning of UAP from from aerial to anomalous, does that mean that the trademark on UAP is no longer good? Now that it's anomalous? If you had a shirt with UAP on it said unidentified anomalous object, can you sell that on any Etsy store? Does anybody have a copyright for that? Actually, I think they do. They didn't use just Arial. They covered, I think they covered a lot of A's in their trademark, now that I'm thinking of it, if I remember correctly, because the guys who trademarked it supposedly trademarked it. Personally, I think it was Jeremy Corbell. The guys who trademarked it had like an attorney in a Twitter space telling everyone exactly why they trademarked it, why they have a right to trademark it. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Yeah, just so so funny. Just so happened to know exactly. It was such a wild, man, I wish that conversation was recorded. Maybe someone could find it, because it was interesting how an expert just showed up in that conversation who knew everything about trademarking and what you're allowed to trademark and why the company that trademarked it shouldn't get shit for it. Even though like people like Dan Zetterstrom were super pissed in that Twitter space. They were like, I'm an artist and I use that, for all of my paintings. What am I supposed to do? Take those down now in the Etsy shop because you guys, stole the trademark? It was a harsh business move, but it was a business move. That's what I said in the space. I think that was something that probably rubbed UAP, UK Media Productions the wrong way. That was one of my strikes, I'm sure, on them. Look, man, trademark your stuff. If you really, really love it, trademark it. So that way no one else does it before you. I mean, I just think the way it was done was really dirty. That we could all agree on. Like, it was dirty as hell. Like that Jeremy Corbell. I think Jeremy Corbell totally Saucer Co. That's the name of the company. If you want to see something interesting, gosh, I don't want to say this because I don't want them to take it down. Fuck it. Who cares? Okay, so shit. Somebody go record this as soon as I say it, because I have a feeling they'll take it down. If you go to Saucer Co.'s YouTube website and go to their videos before they trademarked UAP, there's a moment where they have shitty video. Like, and when I say shitty video, I mean like edited terribly. The quality was really bad. Didn't have a lot of great stuff. And then all of a sudden, something changes in the channel where they have killer editing. And they've got music and footage from Jeremy Corbell's library of stuff when he uses his Twitter videos that are made by Zeta Reticuli, and Zeta Reticuli somehow has all of the stock footage and promo materials from the Bob Lazar and the music, and all of the materials you would need to edit a promo. For some reason, Saucer Co. has it, and Zeta Reticuli has it, which Jeremy Corbell promotes a bunch of his shit too. So, to me, that is enough proof to tell me that Jeremy Corbell has a piece of Saucer Co. They're in business together in some way, and he either recommended or took it upon himself to trademark UAP and UFO. If I don't know if he trademarked UFO, but UAP for sure. And then they have an interview on the Saucer Co. YouTube page. It is you know what? Fuck it. I got time, y'all. Let's go look it up. This is so wild. Boom. Okay. So, the origins of Saucer, right? This is like their promo video. Look at this. Look at the beginning of
3,
this.
2, 1. Welcome.
Listen to this music.
We're going to talk about flying saucers. We're going to talk about them from the standpoint
Oh, wait.
of reporters.
Hold on. Look at this footage. All right, I got to move my camera, so give me a second so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Or I could just do that, but nah, I don't want to get a copyright. Let's do this. Just because I know who I'm going up against here. Let's just do this the right way so that way we don't get a copyright strike. And let's do this just so that way it's 100%, whoopsie, it's 100% clear what's going on here. Okay, so we're not going to watch this whole 42-minute interview, okay, but look at this video from Saucer Co. a year ago.
Check out these trading cards. Well, I
They
don't
have
know if
trading
anybody
cards
else is ever
from
gonna
Travis
do these,
Walton.
but if you want to get the official,
Listen to this
Travis
music.
one,
Look at this editing.
first,
And this is the top of the video. There's
trading
no
card.
presentation.
You can get your
It's
own
got
at
88
saucerco.com.
views.
The evidence revolves around an incident that took place in the Sitgraves National Forest. It was in this location.
So that's like one of the videos that they produce clearly themselves, right? Here's another one that has 1,000 views from
Some
3 years
automakers
ago.
believe less
That's
is
Bob
more.
Lazar
Genesis isn't one of
centric.
them.
Sorry
With
for the
features that
commercial.
the competi-
Again, I'll have that fixed in a day or two. I'm sorry that the commercials are playing. Here's another one again with 1,000 views from 2 years ago. Let's see if this plays. Come on, play for me, baby. Play for me, baby.
This particular disc appeared to be in excellent condition, and because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it
This
the
is
Sport
actually
model.
Listen to. If you can hear this through, this is why I implore you to go to the Saucer Co. website. This is actually their first video, which I think kind of tells me that maybe Corbell had something to do with them right from the beginning. It's their most viewed video, 1,000. I wonder if you go back in Corbell's Twitter timeline, if he ever tweeted out this video, because it's weird that this one has 1,000 and then the rest have nothing. It's like somebody made this first video for them, because if you could hear this through my headphones, this music isn't ripped from some file or some replay of the music. This footage is crystal clear. Somebody either gave them this footage to edit, or somebody edited this footage for them. And if I know anything about Jeremy Corbell, you can't just use his imaging and music, because Corbell paid for these images. Corbell paid for that music. That's the music from his Bob Lazar documentary that came out about 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
This particular disc appeared to be in excellent
Listen
condition,
to
and
this.
because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it the Sport model.
He's got Bob Lazar's crystal clear audio. This looks a lot different from that trading card video I just showed you, right?
Area 51, and they had something in there, and that's actually the closest of.
That music is from Corbell's film. So why is Saucer Co. using Corbell's music? But those are interesting questions on their own, right? But check this out, this interview that Corbell basically runs. Darn it. There we go.
We're going to talk about flying saucers. We're going to talk about them from the standpoint of reporters, not as comedians, not as sensationalists.
With this,
A large number of perfectly sane and reliable people have been involved in this flying
fair
saucer
use,
business.
fair use, fair use.
Even those of us who have never
Fair
seen
use.
one have become involved. We read about them, talk about them, wonder about these reports of strange
This is all
phenomena in the
Corbell's
sky.
footage,
We
man.
have been collecting
Look at
material
this.
on
That
flying
the
saucer observations for
pyramids.
many months. Checking, cross-checking, trying to track down leads.
Footage of Bob Lazar getting out of his Corvette, which is really hard to find.
The facts at hand. What they add
Travis
up to,
Walton
I'll
collecting
let you
cards.
decide. That's up to you.
Saucer Co. books, hoodies.
So when I think of Saucer, when I think of your company, I
Listen
don't
to
just
this.
think of like apparel. I think of a whole kind of broader thing of like learning and
You
bringing
think of
into
this?
popular culture this idea of the mystery of the unknown that the flying saucer represents. My name is Jeremy Kenyon Lockyer Corbell. My friends and enemies, they call me Four Name, right? I'm known for my films like Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. So I got films on Netflix and Hulu, but also I'm an investigative filmmaker and journalist. and I work with a man named George Knapp, and we have been, ringing the UFO bell recently by doing releases by the United States military of verified, unidentified flying objects. Nick, David, Faye, it's so good to see you all together. You're saucer.
Yeah.
Who's running this interview? Is Jeremy Corbell interviewing Saucer? If he is, why is this video on Saucer's site? Presented as if this is their video of interviewing you. Now listen to these. Listen to these. I'm sure they're nice guys, but they didn't edit this.
Yes.
Elevate your craft. That's what you say, right?
Elevate your craft.
Right.
That's what you say, right?
Okay, cool.
That's our
so
slogan.
I want to hear today a little bit about you and what it is that you've started, why you started, what motivates you. Just to be abundantly clear to people, I receive no profits, no royalties. I'm not connected to your company in any way. I just think it is badass.
Who starts an interview like that? Just everything I'm about to say, just FYI, want to preface this entire whole presentation with, I have nothing to do with your company. I don't know anything about any of you people. I just want to elevate your craft, man. And I thought it was really cool. What other thing has Jeremy Corbell promoted like that other than his own shit? Jeremy Corbell doesn't go out of his way to promote other people's shit. He just doesn't. He just doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't. Dude, this is such a weird interview, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I think that right there is weird enough. I think Saucer Co. is owned partly by Jeremy Corbell, if not all by Jeremy Corbell, and I think he had everything to do with copywriting UAPs. So if you guys want to get angry at somebody, get angry at Jeremy Corbell for copywriting UAP and destroying all your Etsy stores, and also get mad at him because he still hasn't answered Eric Weinstein. He still hasn't answered. Neither him, neither Bob Lazar or George Knapp have answered Eric Weinstein's request to have either a private dinner or a podcast on Joe Rogan's platform, with Joe Rogan being the middleman between these two parties and having a civil, scientific, mathematic conversation and just talking MIT shop, just talking Harvard shop with the old physicist Bob Lazar. Still have yet to answer that call, Jeremy Corbell. So there you go. I've solved 2 crimes today, I guess. Oh boy. Quantum Jiu-Jitsu. That's what he majored in. Isn't that right, Mr. Eon? Dude, absolute puppety fun. Puppety fun. I like that. Oh man. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss any donations from you guys. Really appreciate any donations and support of that way. And if you can't, don't worry about it. Just like, subscribe, share the show. If you enjoyed this breakdown of, well, I didn't know I was going to go into Saucer Co. I don't even remember how I got onto that, but yeah. If anybody takes these videos down, you'll know why. I don't think they will. I just think they won't answer this or anything, any challenge whatsoever. All right. Let's see here. You guys, let's see. Did I have one other thing that I bookmarked that I wanted to talk about here with you guys? Let me see. Good. The bookmarks. No, that was it. Yeah. All right. Again, here's Garry Nolan's quote. Within 6 months, insiders will step forward, and that will change things. And in this conversation, he said, it's a slow process, man. Don't know. Have no idea when this is coming out. Don't know, investors, but trust me, bro. Read between the lines, and you'll see what I'm seeing. Just give me money. Good one, Neil Goodman. I agree with you. And by the way, that was a while ago. And look at this, StandForBetter.org. Soon. Just wait till this investment meeting. This is what they were talking about. This was soon. This presentation, this was part of it. A book will be next. After the book, maybe a hearing. Before the book, maybe another hearing. Or just one hearing before or after the book. And that'll be it. And I'll be shocked to see how much money they get from private investors. And I'll be shocked to see how much money they start getting in the new NDAAs once all of these things come out and everybody starts to see this is nonsense. And eventually for the Aero office to go away, which is the whole purpose of it, for it not to exist, for different agencies to be able to look at these apertures that we missed for many, many years because of stigma. Once these agencies know how to communicate that data and share it properly, the Aero office goes away. And this whole UFO thing goes away and is not taken seriously for another 70 years. That's what we're going to get. Because if it was anything else, this hearing would have been jam-packed if senators were being briefed that kind of information. But they're not. And that's why they didn't show up, because they had other shit to do. That was more important. Not that this isn't, but it's not as important as some other things going on. And once even in this hearing, the idea of redundancy. Isn't this a redundant office? Yeah, in a lot of ways it is. But hey, we're here to help. We'll figure it out, and we'll stop wasting taxpayer dollars on this office. That's the plan going forward. And so this is soon, everyone. This presentation, this promise that you're getting from the grifters, from the ones who are close to the access, the Trust Me Bros, the Stand for Betters, the Garry Nolans, the UAP Media UKs. Trust me, bros. Trust me. Okay, it's coming soon. All of it is coming soon, according to the Good Trouble Show. All of your answers will be quenched. They will all be answered soon. May 14th. Soon. Sofo boarding. UFO Twitter. UAP Twitter. What a goonie. What a goonie. What a bunch of goonies. Unbelievable, man. Unreal. I am so sick of the Goonies in this conversation. You guys have just absolutely muddied the waters so bad that if there is something real in the atmosphere that a very small percentage of humans have actually been able to comprehend and witness in any sort of fashion, you've ruined it. You've absolutely destroyed it. It's gone. That hope is over. You're not gonna get alien bodies. You're not gonna get crash materials. You're not. Garry hasn't even seen them. He couldn't even answer the question. I don't know how you guys are missing this, some of you guys. They ruined this. They absolutely ruined this. This is a cash grab for some of them. This is a national security issue for some of them. This is a genuine scientific inquiry maybe for some of them. And some of them, it's just a fucking scam. That's the best I could come up with. Dude, it's such a bummer, man. Such a bummer. This was so promising at first. It was exciting. You guys got a lot of hopes up. But it's now been 6 years almost of Trust Me, Bro. Read between the lines. And it's right around the corner. Soon. Soon, Matt Ford. Soon you're gonna look like a dick. You're gonna feel like one. I promise you, you're gonna feel like one. This is gonna hit for some of you a lot harder than it did me. Be prepared. Be prepared. Your belief system is clouding your rationality. And if that speech fired you up and got you stoked that they're real, if it inflamed your belief, if you think this is a win, it's not. This is a sales pitch to Wall Street. That's what this is. It's a sales pitch to Wall Street, and you're clapping and dancing as if you just won the Super Bowl. You didn't win shit, dude. There was no new information in that presentation. There was no facts in that presentation. If he really wanted actual money, reveal one technology from that special access program. Just simply answer the question. Yes, I've seen it. I've held it. I've touched it. I've looked at it under a microscope. I've ran experiments on it. Why didn't he say that? If it's so concrete, so scientific. This stuff isn't real, man. And if it's exotic, it's because it's ours. What if I'm wrong? Awesome. Great, Joshua IPOC. What? So what? I'm wrong. No one's going to remember if I'm wrong. No one's going to give a shit. Because so many people will have had a paradigm shift. It'll be a new fact, like the world is round. It'll be something that is undeniable. So trust me when I tell you, bro, they won't care what I think or thought or was wrong about. They will not give a shit. The only thing science will want to know and the world will want to know, who are they, where they come from, what's going on. And guess what? I'll talk about it. I'll have a blast with it. And I'll admit the first thing I would do would be, hey, I got it wrong. I got way over in my head. I went down a different rabbit hole. And that'll be the second rabbit hole I guess I had gone down. If that turns out to be true. But nothing in that presentation proves me wrong. And it sure as hell doesn't prove you right. Because there are no facts. And I'm not saying you specifically. Who asked that question? If I'm wrong. Where'd it go? God, is it that far away already? Oh, Joshua. I hope I'm wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. I mean, look, even if I'm wrong, it's one of two things. And we've said this before. It's either our tech or it's alien tech. If it's not China and Russia or any other terrestrial adversary, then that leaves us and aliens. Ask yourself this: which one is the higher probability of it being? What's the higher probability? Black projects or aliens? I lean towards black projects. That's just me. Yo. Let's go over the poll, shall we? There were 98 votes. What are the odds that this live stream doesn't fail? 33% of you had a lot of faith in me. Said 0% chance. 0% chance that it fails. 21% said 100% chance it will fail. And 11% said you've been hacked, so total fail. And 35% with the win, total crapshoot. I think that's what I would have went with as well. I think we finally figured out the whole starting issue. Thankfully, made me feel better. That's nothing that I'm doing wrong. It's a glitch in the actual software, the streaming software, that is. So they have escalated the issue up, but I have figured out a way to make a show without alerting you guys and bothering you guys, and also then start that show without alerting you guys, bothering you guys. And then when I'm done with that, restart that show, and then it goes live. So from now on, I think we got to figure it out. Either way. Local 556, thank you so much. He says, good show, Lou. Keep up the commentary on this topic as it unfolds in the future. Yeah, we will be doing that. We will definitely be doing that. Anon ET, you're good. You're a good dude, Lou. Wish we could get a beer. Hey, if you're ever in Los Angeles, and this goes for anyone, if any of y'all are ever in LA, passing through, and I'm doing a show because we just got renewed at the Upright Citizens Brigade for another year. So we'll be doing a show every month for the next year, I think, except for December, because that's Christmas. So if you're in town, hit me up. I'll get you a comp. I'll get you one comp into the show. Just you. I can't do two. It's very short list for the comps. But yeah, thanks, guys. I'm having fun. You know, again, a lot of this stuff is just my thoughts as I'm seeing it. You know, so a lot of speculation, but I think we can all agree something, if you want to call it nefarious, something's just not right. And I think that's really been my point for the last 6-7 months. It's just something's not right. These presentations, these pitches to Wall Street, like, you shouldn't be for this stuff. You shouldn't be for right-wing politicians being the loudest voices on this topic. You shouldn't be for, you know, oh, that's what the comment said. Immunologists all of a sudden are experts on exotic alien materials. Like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. You know, like, Garry Nolan's a smart guy, but what does he know about examining alien space metal from a crash craft? It's a legitimate question, and it's a question that he's been asked. And I promise you, if he hasn't blocked you yet, just ask him that question. Just ask him that question. And also the special access program. Like, who else is in that special access program? Anytime it's one of you truth seekers, like the UAP Media UK, you guys are there for the science and the truth. Why don't you ask Dr. Nolan about that? Ask him who else is in the special access program. Ask him, is the guy he talked about smoking a joint that can't get into the special access program Eric Weinstein? Who were you talking about when you said that? How long ago what special access program is this? Now that we know there's a special access program, there should be a way to FOIA it. John Greenwald, I have a feeling we'll probably see this. John, if you could get on that, man. We got some stuff coming for you on that front. John's been doing some FOIAs based off of some of the things that we've said on this show. So I hope everybody caught that. I hope that was obvious to everybody else and not just me, the hater, the traitor, the backstabber. I want the truth, man. I want it to be real just as badly as you guys. But I'm not going to sacrifice who I am to put a truth out there that I know in my heart might not be true. Probably isn't. Anyway, what's today? Thursday? It's a good day. It's a good day. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of Lou Reviews. Again, you guys know the way to support the show if you can. God bless you. Love you to death. If you can't, don't sweat it. Like, share, subscribe. Tell people about the show. Tag Garry Nolan in this video. Let's really ask them some tough questions about the things they say. How's the special access program how are you allowed to talk about it? How are you allowed to talk about it? And how is the person who told you about reverse engineering programs allowed to tell you about that? Those are really good goddamn questions that every host should want the answer to that question, no matter who you are. Anyway, y'all, I'm done. I love you all. Have a wonderful night. Have a killer night. Have a great rest of your week. We might do another live stream this week, and who knows. Until then, peace.